Hello, I'm Ron Squire. Welcome to highlights of the 2026 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Round 6 is the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Considered as one of the most oldest and most storied events on the calendar, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone is considered by many to be the home of modern motorsport, and it was the venue of the first ever official F1 race back in May 1950. Built on an old RAF base after its namesake, Silverstone has seen various alterations over the past 75 years and musters 5.8 kilometres in its current form, which the drivers need a greatly balanced setup to get through 52 laps here. Alex Lahoo takes pole position for the first time since Australia, taking the top spot from Max Schluter within 1/10 of a second. Jazz Braxtock lines up third for Ottomani, whilst Loic Meunier can only contend with fourth. Lucas Murdo takes fifth for the second Ottomani, whilst Christian Pascal is back for Squire Nation Esports for the first time since Azerbaijan to take sixth. Nando Marza qualifies in his highest position yet with 7th, George Zalagianis is 8th, just a few tenths from Matt Toussaint in 9th, while Saba Elex qualifies in the top 10 for the very first time. Amin Suisi just misses out by 0.03 of a second, while his teammate Will Snowden is sandwiched between the newly rebranded Mission 1 V1 GP cars of Juro Soppinen in 12th and Romanian debutant Devan Stefan in 14th, whilst Polish driver Julian Maricewicz makes his debut for Supernova in 15th. To the race start, Max Schluter did not have the best of starts as he gets too much wheel spin off the line, nearly taking out Braxtock, whilst Meunier takes advantage of the calamity to take third into Abbey. But further back, Will Snowden and David Staffan nearly tangled with each other at the first corner, but both were able to continue. But it's disaster underneath for Ottomani as Janis Braxtock inadvertently closes the door on teammate Murdo, which the Brazilian, unable to back out, makes contact and goes off onto the grass, whilst Elex makes a vital error whilst turning into the loop and is spinning at the exact same time. The Hungarian rejoins just in front of sister teammate Snowden. At the end of the opening lap, Lahoo leads from Schluter, Meunier, Braxtock, Pascal, Marza, Zalagianis, Suisi, Soppinen and Remitsowicz. The pole, unfortunately, on his debut, spun after losing the back end slightly at Abbey, dropping the Supernova driver down to 13th. He will drop all the way down to the back after another error at Copse on the next lap, while sister teammate Stefan makes a great overtake on Snowden on the outside of the Stowe for 13th. Snowden's race was becoming quickly a battle for survival, with the 7 hours car all over the track going through Abbey and Village. Snowden relinquishes 14th to Remitsowicz on what is already a bad day for the Brit on home turf. Snowden will retire on lap 5, losing the back end at Abbey and slamming into the barrier, completely destroying his 7 arrows. 10 laps into the race and the top 5 was already in a train-like formation with 4 tenths separating each car. Lahoo ahead of Schluter, Meunier, Braxtock and Pascal. Zalagianis is a bit further back in 6th, but still has a visual on the top 5 as much as possible. Marza and Invictus' home race is going well in 7th, just a few seconds from Murdo, whilst both 7 Arrows' sister teammates Zaba Elex and Amin Suisi take the top 10 so far in the race. Another home driver seems to be struggling in the early going is Matt Toussaint, the Brit stuck behind Soppinen in 11th, the Finn holding ground for as much as possible. Toussaint will finally make his move on Soppinen down the hanger straight for 11th. David Stefan will become retirement number 2 of the race before lap 11, the Romanian losing control exiting Stowe and slamming into the barrier in a similar move to Snowden's earlier exit. Zalagianis was the first to make his stop on lap 12, rejoining in 10th on a fresh set of hards. On the same lap, Murno makes a daring and swift overtake on Marza at Copse, the Brazilian up into 6th place. Marza would pit at the end of the lap. Soppinen pits on the next lap and is the first to pit on a new set of softs, as the Finn got a strategy for the top 10 as Soppinen rejoins in 12th. Lap 14 and 2 of the front runners pit in as Braxtock follows Meunier in, whilst Meunier puts on a fresh set of mediums. Braxtock goes on for the hards as both nearly tangle for the lead going out to the pit lane, the 2 drivers rejoining in 5th and 6th. The next driver to pit is Christian Pascal, as the Italian pits in on the next lap for hards. Pascal rejoins in 7th as Zalagianis just cuts the Squire Nation driver off. But sadly for Zalagianis, this will come back to bite the Greek hard as the ground effect driver turns too much at Brooklands before spinning off before Woodcote, damaging the car as a result, ending his race on lap 15. Schluter was the next to pit from 2nd, giving Lahoo some ample breathing room up front. The world champion rejoins in 5th, just in front of Pascal. Lahoo finally pits on the next lap, nearly getting rear-ended by Remitsowicz as he did so coming out of his box. The championship leader is back out in 5th behind Schluter and just in front of Pascal as Meunier assumes the lead of the race. Lap 18 and Zaba Elex pulls out of the race once again after going off at Chapel, the Hungarian being unable to finish a single race so far in this World Championship season. For the past couple of laps, Braxtock has been all over the place at the back and Meunier looking for a way past. The Hungarian would finally make his move down the Wellington Straight on lap 24, past the MV Conquest driver as Braxtock now leads the race. So at halfway distance, Braxok now leads the pack from Meunier, who is trying to play catch up with the Hungarian. Schluter is in third, keeping tabs, while Lahou is seemingly all over the place in fourth. Pascal is in fifth, but stepping away from the leading quartet. Murno in sixth, with a gap of 6 seconds to Marza. Suisi 7 seconds from Tucson, while Soppinen is in a prime position to score points for the reformed V1 GP outfit in 10th. Buoyed on from his victory at the last round in Canada, Schluter for the last couple of laps leading up to lap 29 has been eating into every little bit of Meunier's position, and the world champion makes his move count down to Wellington Straight to move up to second, whilst Meunier can only watch. But the move would be a false dawn as Schluter pits at the beginning of lap 30, the world champion fitting on a fresh set of hards as he rejoins in 6th behind Murno. However, Meunier can barely celebrate getting back into second before his sister teammate Lahou makes a similar move on lap 30 down the Wellington Straight as the championship leader climbs up into second. Meunier would pit at the end of the lap. 20 laps to go and Braxok makes his dive into the pits as Lahou takes the lead, the Hungarian coming out with a fresh set of hards in 5th as he was just beat by Schluter going into village. Lahou will also pit on lap 33, meaning for the first time since Japan, there is a new race leader this season as Christian Pascal takes the top spot for Squire Nation Esports, whilst Lahou rejoins in 6th just behind sister teammate Meunier. Schluter's form would continue to go on the up at Silverstone with a clean and audacious pass on Murno on the outside of Stowe, the world champion back up into second once again. Pascal's lead will only last for 2 laps before the Italian comes back into the pits once again to pit on mediums, the Squire Nation driver now in 6th as Schluter takes the lead. Lap 35 and Meunier nudges his way past Murno at the loop as the Brazilian takes to the grass to avoid collision, with Lahou taking advantage of the situation to not only pass Murno but his sister teammate too, the championship leader moving up into 3rd place. Meunier will give his place back to Murno after Woodcote following his earlier nudge at the loop. A few laps later, Meunier will continue to go down the order as Pascal moves past him at Stowe for 5th and will become 4th as Murno pits in. As we approach the last 10 laps, Schluter leads but with increasing pressure from Braxok behind. Lahou is only a few seconds behind but keeps an eye on the leading duo. Pascal makes a gamble as the leading driver on mediums but will try and find out if the gamble pays off. Meunier in 5th in what was a lacklustre afternoon for the Frenchman, Murno in 6th despite his afternoon going pear-shaped. The two Invictus drivers, Marza and Tucson, take 7th and 8th, Suisi, the only 7 hours driver left in the race, in 9th, and Soppinen a lap down in 10th. The pressure that Braxok was putting on the world champion was paying off and the Hungarian seemed to make a move on Schluter at Stowe, but Braxok was too eager on the gas on the exit and lost the back end after touching the sausage curb. The Ottomali driver recovered quickly but lost second to Lahou in the process. Only a couple of laps to go and many thought that Schluter would have to win in the bag, but unfortunately the world champion was unable to hold off Lahou's advances and the Frenchman makes a move on Schluter at Stowe on the penultimate lap and is a place that Lahou will hold all the way to the finish line. Taking his first win since Japan, Alex Lahou secures victory at Silverstone in what was almost an upside down afternoon for the Frenchman. Mark Schluter had done the best he could possibly do but has to settle for second, and Jan Braxok can only rue about his earlier spin as the Hungarian takes 3rd. Christian Pascal finishes 4th in what was the best finish yet for Squire Nation Esports, just under 2 seconds from Loic Meunier in 5th. Lucas Murno's race could have gone better as the Brazilian takes 6th at the fastest lap. Nando Marza and Matt Tucson finishes victors his home race in the top 8. Amin Suisi secures his 3rd top 10 finish so far this season, and Juro Soppinen gets his first points finish in his World Championship career. In the drivers' table, Lahou still leads the championship by 18 points from Schluter, the world champion still holding on into the title race. Jas Braxok takes 3rd in the standings from Jan Grankvist, who was absent today, and Loic Meunier builds the gap from an also absent Peter Burlak. Nando Marza is in 7th, just 3 points from Christian Pascal. Lucas Murno 1 point ahead of Matt Tucson, who nudges Amin Suisi outside of the top 10. In the constructors, the top 4 remains the same, but the gap between MV Conquest and Ground Effect is slightly closing in. Optimali is virtually unworried in 4th as Invictus secures a double points finish. 7 hours remain 12 points ahead of Squire Nation Esports despite one driver finishing today, whilst the newly reformed Mission 1 V1 GP are on 15 points and Supernova claim their first points thanks to Remissa's finish. The next race is the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps on Sunday the 12th of July. You can watch that race live as it happens right here on our YouTube channel. Qualifying begins at 8:25pm GMT with the race starting at 8:45pm GMT. In the meantime, you can join our forums at formula-simracing.net as well as our Discord server for up-to-date information and join in on the community. The links in the description below, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I'm Ron Squire and join us for the next round of the 2026 Formula Sim Racing World Championship.